Cody, you said something off the get-go that you came across my stuff a while ago and you didn't like me at first, but now you kind of agree with stuff that I'm talking about. What was it that you didn't like?
I thought you were very negative towards women.
Okay.
Um, I
Anything specifically
also,
that we can talk about first?
yeah, actually, education. So, and I would like some clarification on your side of it too. Obviously, so what I hear when I'm listening to your podcasts and your shows women is that education isn't important for women.
Hmm.
Is that correct?
It really depends on your strategy. I mean, I've said
Yeah.
this
Okay.
before. I don't know if you've caught it, but I think a woman's better off skipping collecting degrees and going to post-secondary and getting into high-ticket sales in their very early 20s, selling expensive cars, yachts, jets, real estate, getting exposed to successful guys that have their life together, and then just marrying one of them and having a family, and you're set for life. So
Right.
I wouldn't recommend my daughter to go and chase a whole bunch of degrees and put them on the wall and frame them in mahogany. Instead, it's probably better off to get married at a younger age rather than putting that off later on.
Do you know what the statistics are for a woman being able to find a husband in that category who can be like, who's an
Well, I mean, the
excellent.
kind of guys that most gals want are all on the top shelf, right? It's like all the girls are looking for the top 5% of guys. Tall, competent, resourceful, makes good money, has a good social network, good looking, not fat, in good shape, blah, blah, blah sort of thing. So there's not a ton of them, but you're going to be in a better position to lock that guy down in your 20s than you are in your 40s or 50s.
Right. But what about women who obviously, there's not the pool of men who are high value is very small. And so so what about those women who won't be able to get a man like that? Not every woman who goes and sells expensive yachts and expensive cars will come out marrying a man who makes a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
And so why not
Want to have the
promote?
backup plan?
Yeah.
I don't know. Why did the conquistadors burn the ships at the shore when they reached the new land? So, sort of thing to make sure that they were committed to it.
Right.
Yeah, the
I mean,
backup plan's been sold to women though. Like, how's that working out? I guess is the question that I have, because we have a large swath of women in their 30s and 40s that are asking me, where do I find a guy? I've done all the work. I've got the house. I've got the Tesla. I have my degrees. I make good money. I'm independent. I'm timely. I'm punctual. I'm a good worker sort of thing. It's like you've basically described what makes a man attractive to a woman, and they miss the point that they're kind of not selling themselves the right way to the guys that they want to be with.
what about women who are educated and encompass those qualities that more feminine qualities that high value men look for?
Well, what usually ends up happening from the experience that we have is, and I have a video that I want to share too as well too. I know Moff, you got something queued up because it's sort of really interesting talking point that I wanted to present to the gals tonight. But it's been told to women today that it's wise to not rely on a man, and I think that might be good advice in a pool of like a terrible dating pool for women. But then where does that leave you? It leaves you in a condition where you're by yourself or you price yourself out of the dating market, because women don't date guys that are below them. They don't generally want to look at a guy. They want to look up at a guy. They want to be with a guy that's better than them. That's the whole notion of hypergamy, right? So, if you've done well in your life and you've got everything that, makes men attractive to women, you've basically become a dude. And then your pool of guys that you have access to are going to be there, but they know that women don't share their pot of gold with men, right? So it's like, do they want somebody that's disagreeable and sort of like a boss girl, or do they want somebody that's a compliment to their life, who's going to make their house a home, raise their children, be respectful, be useful in their life and stuff like that? And they usually choose the latter, the smart ones anyway. But there's also a lot of guys that were sold the same narrative, and I was too when I was younger too. Is like, you want to be the twin towers, right? Like you want to marry your equal. You want to find a professional that's together and has their degrees as well, and all that sort of stuff, and build a life together. And they end up fighting quite a lot and doing this. So it's tough. Like half of marriages are failing. Second time around, it's even higher. We live in a difficult sort of environment right now, don't we?
For sure.
So
I
you
definitely do.
didn't like the notion about education? What did I say exactly that bugged you?
Well, I don't know. It wasn't like a specific thing. It was the tone, maybe, of and like I said, I could have been misinterpreting what you said. But what I heard every time that I would listen to your podcast and education and women
Mm,
came up, it's Robin. It was women don't focus on a degree, go sell yachts or expensive cars, find that high value man. Men aren't looking, piece of paper and a mahogany frame
mm,
isn't going to impress a man. It's
mm.
cooking and being nurturing and more feminine qualities. And I guess like my disagreement with that notion of thought, is just like, well, not every woman will be able to find a high value man, and so then what? And
But
also,
here's
oh, go
just
ahead.
really quick. This is what I want to make sure like really gets hammered home because
Mhm.
Rich touched on it, but what women risk by getting degrees and getting master's degrees and making a bunch of money is we talked about what you just mentioned, pricing themselves out of the market.
Mhm.
If you're a woman who's a hairdresser or you're working in McDonald's and you're making $30,000 a year, a guy that comes and makes $80,000 a year, okay, that guy makes more than double your income. That guy might be a top shelf guy in that woman's eyes. She still looks up to that guy. He still makes more. He's still going to be a provider, being taken care of, or being taken care of her. Versus if she goes to a 4-year or 6-year school or whatever, and she comes out making 85K, 90K, every guy that makes 80K doesn't even stand a chance. So the pool of men that she will actually find or see as higher value than her, because that's really what it boils down to, higher value. Like women want to look up, right? Not every woman, is going to go get a millionaire, a billionaire, or whatever. But the pool of men that she will find attractive that will be suitable for her as a mate or as a husband or boyfriend is going to be vastly larger than if she spends her entire 20s chasing degrees and chasing high paying careers and making a bunch of money. That's what it boils down to. Yes, is there a guarantee that it might not work out for her? Sure. I mean, there's no certainty in anything, but her odds are astronomically and exponentially higher, and there's a far better chance that she will find somebody if she doesn't rush into high level, degrees and all this kind of stuff. And she puts herself in an environment like high ticket sales where she will constantly be running into high value and well off men. So it's take the best option that you have, right, and go with that. If you're always planning for the backup, then how can you have a primary strategy?
That's very true. I definitely see your point, and that makes a lot of sense. My other kind of to piggyback on that, I thought that just came in my mind. What about, so I'm not saying always, but having more education um, does, increase your ability to learn information, to understand information, and could make you a better conversationalist. Is that something that's important to men to be able to have to?
No, because
I
No.
mean,
the
we
things
don't
that
want to
guys
sit
are
across
interested
the
in
table
talking
from a
about,
bimbo, if we're being honest. But at the same
right?
time, we're not going to get into
But the stuff that Rich and
conversations
I talk
about,
about, the
yeah.
things that we're interested in, we're generally not having those conversations with women. Like they're generally not interested in that kind of stuff. We've got conversations for the guys and we've got conversations for the women, right? So I mean, it's just that we generally don't have a lot in common, men and women, other than we are drawn to each other, biologically and evolutionarily. So no, it doesn't necessarily. It's not completely out the window. It's not completely out to lunch, but it's certainly not on a top priority list.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Okay.
you know how long it took me to stop saying to my husband, "But why don't you value me for how smart I am or all the things that I've accomplished or whatever?" And he's like, "It just doesn't matter to me." And it took a really long time to understand that,
Mhm.
men are looking for respect um and they want youth and beauty, and unfortunately that means in your 20s. um they don't the things that women value in themselves are not the things that men value in women, and that's where the disconnect is.
I
Yeah.
totally.
And it always takes women a while to figure that out, right? Because if you're drunk on the cultural Kool-Aid of, get a degree, be independent, be responsible, buy your first house, get your car and all that sort of stuff. It's tough to get away from that. And
Well, it's funny because so I was like, because he has got my picture in his locker at work,
Mhm.
and I had accomplished something. I don't even remember what it was, and he's like, "What, you want me to take your pictures down and put your resume up in there?" It's
right,
not how it
exactly.
works.
Yeah, because women are beauty objects. So he's got a photograph of you there, probably looking good with makeup on, hair done, all proper. So when his mates in the locker room see it, they're gonna be like, "Oh yeah, it's Cindy, that's Bob's wife," sort of thing, right? They're not looking for a copy of your degree in his locker, because women are beauty objects to men, and men are success objects to women. So there's like vast differences that we're often talking about here in a landscape that I think if we can get this clarity out to men and women sooner, I think everybody's better off, right? Like Rain learning this in her 20s is better off than learning this in your 40s. It's usually like we always have at some point, like a gal, and it's like, oh man, I was lied to. I've got all these degrees and I've got this great income and the Tesla's paid off and my house is awesome and all I have is cats and no guy wants me, right? Like all I'm doing is serial dating now in my 40s and I'm overweight and I can't lose the weight and I don't know what to do and blah, 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 sort of thing. It's like, I mean, I'm sorry you were lied to and we didn't talk 20 years before, but like it is what it is. It's just not what guys want in women. There are guys out there that still look for the the soulmate, the equal. Let's go and buy a house together and get that down payment out there like ASAP before the market climbs and the interest rate's getting higher and blah blah sort of thing. But it's like, I mean, you can avoid all of that if you structure your life a little bit better in your 20s and preserve your value and find the right guy and lock him down. I really hope you guys enjoyed that clip. If you want to watch the full-length podcast, you can find that over here, that clip's from. If you're newer to the channel, make sure you hit subscribe over here and pin down below in the top comment. You'll find a bunch of useful links to my website, my supplement line, books, and a bunch of other stuff. Have an amazing day. Peace out.